All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Krista Grenza. I'm the grants coordinator with here at the South Carolina Arts Commission. I'm joined today by our team, Trinity Howell, our assistant grants coordinator, and Michaela Moore, arts learning coordinator, who oversees this program. Today, we're going to be going over our FY26 School Arts Support Grant, which is one of our rolling grants that is currently available for application this year. We're going to go over our guidelines as well as the application process and the application within our grants portal. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Can everybody see that? All right. So this, of course, is our website where our grant guidelines can be found for this grant category, the School Art Support Grant. And I will hand it over to Michaela to go over the overview of what this grant is all about.
Thanks, Krista. Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. Once again, my name is Michaela Moore. This is the grant I oversee. It looks a little different this year than years past, because we sunsetted our 4K Arts Integration Grant and combined it with this grant, which was before this year strictly just K through 12, and now it includes 4K and K through 12. So you're going to see a little bit of these differences as we go through. But to start, the purpose is still to help schools acquire supplies, materials, equipment, professional development, or creative arts therapy services. The funding is up to $2,500 per grant request. Who's eligible? Because of the changes, now 4K startup classrooms and providers are eligible. Also, most public, private, and charter schools in SC. Some schools have 4K startup classrooms in that case. Um, as that means like one site can get up to 4 grants per year, two for 4K projects and two for K through 12 projects, but that really is dependent on the school and the site. The match requirement depends on whether it's a 4K project or a K through 12 project, but we'll get into that a little later on. The very last day that anyone can submit an application is February 17th. At end of the day. So that's the very last deadline. All throughout the year, though, you can apply depending on when you want your grant to start or when you want purchases to begin being made. That would be your start date for your project, and we recommend that you apply at least 5 weeks before grant-funded activities begin. And the grant period for these grant activities to begin and end is August 18th, all the way until May 15th. Krista, you can scroll down. So yeah, so that's another video you can watch, giving more information about the grant, up front, and then, continuing on with the purpose. So the purpose is to help schools, address student outcomes through innovative arts practices and or curriculum, through arts for art's sake curriculum, arts enhanced curriculum, or arts integrated curriculum. We are going based off of the Kennedy Centers for the Arts definitions. So you can look there. We've linked their definitions into the guidelines, so you could read upon that later and see the differences and see which curriculum will be best used for your project, because you'll need to know that as one of the questions on the grant. Can you go to applicant coaching or eligibility? Yeah, great. Um, so for 4K providers, the applicant must be either in a public school or school district in South Carolina or as a SC First Steps 4K provider. um, um, or a CertUp 4K provider. Um, Now, in the past, ABC schools have not been eligible for this grant, but if they have a 4K classroom, they are now eligible. If you're unsure about your status as CertUp, you can check with us, contact us, and we'll be able to check for you. For K through 12 providers, once again, ABC schools aren't eligible to apply, but they are if they have a 4K classroom. The applicant must be a public, private, or charter K through 12 school in South Carolina. And private and charter schools must be currently registered as a charity with the Secretary of State's office, reflect South Carolina as the primary as their primary address, and must either have federal tax exempt status or apply through a tax exempt fiscal agent, and we can check on that as well. You will also need to provide a UEI, and if you're unfamiliar with that, we have it linked to describe it even more. Um, an
I
oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Krista.
sorry. I will say if that you are working within a public school, your UEI and your tax information will be the same as your school districts. So if you're a new school applying for this grant, you haven't applied with us before, it is good idea to reach out to your school district. They'll have that. Their finance office will usually have that information to share with you. But if you are unsure and the school district may be unsure for whatever reason, check with us as well. We might be able to find it within our records.
Great. Thank you, Krista.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of who we expect the applicant to be, if you're a teacher that's not an arts teacher, not in a particular art form, an arts teacher within the school or an arts professional must serve as a partnering expert if you are applying. But if you're an arts teacher applying, that is perfectly fine. You are the expert. Um, can you go to restrictions, please? So, as I stated earlier, no one school can receive more than two SAS grants for 4K projects or receive more than two for K through 12 projects, um, giving a maximum at most for SAS grants per school if they have both K through 12 and 4K classrooms. An applicant may not receive funding for the same exact project twice. As I said, a non-arts teacher may apply, but they must have an arts teacher or arts professional be a partnering expert. Multiple teachers can collaborate and apply jointly, or it can be one teacher per application. And if a teacher works at multiple schools, they cannot apply. One grant cannot go to multiple schools. Instead, the teacher must choose the school with which the grant will be applied for. So one school, one grant per school, if that makes sense. A teacher who teaches at multiple schools may apply for separate grants for each school. Can we go to use of funds, please? Grant funds should supplement, not replace your current arts budget. So we are intending these grant funds to pay for things that are beyond your current budget capacity. Grant funds should not pay for materials projects so that your current arts budget can be used elsewhere. For 4K providers, you may use grant funds for an artist in residence or a full trap residency. If you're unfamiliar, there's a link in there to give you more information about that. An artist, a residence will provide professional learning and training time with the teacher to ensure the teacher's growth in their skill level and ability to teach through art strategies going forward. So to implement that element of professional learning, grant recipients must use members of the SC Arts Directory, whether they're a 4K provider or K-12 provider. Consumable and non-consumable resources directly related to arts residencies and professional learning are allowed and encouraged. All material purchases must be made and items received within the project's dates to your right, which would be within the grant period, August to May. K through 12 providers may use grant funds to pay for materials, equipment, and supplies. That includes instruments, art supplies of any kind, professional development opportunities, going to conferences or associations, and all the travel, hotel fees, or substitute teacher costs that may go along with that. Arts residencies, similar to what I said before for 4K, must use members of the SC Arts Directory, and you can get a link to that to see exactly in search based on what you think would be best for your classroom according to availability and arts disciplines, creative arts therapy project experience. This is our second year implementing this. Now that we're including creative arts therapists and creative arts therapy organizations on the directory, you can reach out to them to try to bring them into your school or collaborate for a creative arts therapy project. And then you can reach out to the coordinator linked below for any more questions. SAS grant funds cannot be used for purchase of clothing or uniforms. Costumes for a one-time show is a different thing that is allowed. Purchase of food is not allowed. Direct student services such as field trips or registration travel fees for an art event is not allowed. Um, I stated a little bit of that already, so additional requirements. We are requiring all applicants to also um, think about and brainstorm ways that they can measure the success of their project. So for the 4K path and the K through 12 path, we give examples. Some are listed here about a great way, depending on the student outcome you're trying to address, that you can measure success based on data, based on surveys, based on responses from students or parents. So we're just helping you think of ways to know that your project is successful, and tell the story of that in the grant. So that is what this is about. Um, yeah, I think that's all. Priority. So depending on um So these are the people that are eligible for no match, and we'll get into that for a second, but there are certain schools, and your school may be on this list, that are on the SC Department of Education's list of schools with low income student populations. If you are on this list, you're eligible for no match. If you are in certain opportunity counties, you're giving priority points to help make sure that we can get grant funding into your counties. And if you're a 4K provider, if you're in the opportunity counties, you will have no match as well.
And just to clarify a little bit, so when we say priority, does that mean if you are not in one of these counties, if your school has less than 70% of a low income student population, that doesn't mean we will be discounting your application in any way. We are simply giving bonus points to these schools. It will not negatively affect your application or score if you are paneled in any way. Um, so if you have any questions about this, please let us know. Um, a lot of this information will be reiterated in the application. We can show that as well in a little bit.
Thank you, Krista.
Mhm.
So once again, the application opened on July 21st, and the very last time we can accept an application is February 17th. We recommend and we need all applications to be submitted at least 5 weeks before grant funded activities begin or purchases are made, or when you say your start date of the project is, so we can make sure that all applications are evaluated, or looked through and approved, and you will know what you are awarded. So that's why we need that 5 weeks to do that. Um, Yes. Okay. A lot of this already said. So funding and match. As alluded to before, for the different pathways, for 4K pathway, for the K through 12 pathway, the match is different. But for 4K, for the K through 12 providers, the 1 and 2 match, um, that means, which essentially means that the school is required to pay if you're required to have a match and you're not on the no match list, the school is required to pay for 1/3 of the project, and the grant funds would cover 2/3 of the total project. But you will need, because this is a reimbursement based grant, you will need to fund everything up front, and then on successful completion of your final report, everything will be reimbursed back to you. For 4K, the match is 1 to 3. We have resources if you are confused about how the match works. We have resources such as a grant budget spreadsheet that will help you auto calculate and tabulate those numbers to make sure all your calculations are correct and realistic based on what you want to use the grant for and what exactly your match is and how that will look for your school's budget. Krista, do you have anything else to add on this
Yeah.
section?
Um, And if we will double check when you submit your application, we will double check your budget, your match, and your expenses to make sure everything is calculating correctly, that you've entered the right maximum request in, you've entered the right match in. If you have any questions about your match, again, feel free to reach out to us. Um, for 4K, the reason, just to clarify, why we have it different from our K through 12, the no match requirement, is because since these 4K providers could also be preschools and sites not directly associated with school districts or individual schools, we wanted to make sure that those sites were included in that. So we based it off of our opportunity county list. Um, but if your school has that low income population of above 70% for your K through 12, then that's what it will be based off. So it may be an instance where you may be in Greenville County, but you still have that 70%. So if you're applying for a 4K in a school arts support, those matches may be different. Um, it's confusing, but we do review and we do check to double make sure everything's in. If we see anything that we need to reach out to you about, if there's a deficit within a budget, we'll let you know before it goes to panel to make sure everything's good, everything's ready to go. And we do recommend you, and because the funding directly goes to your school district's finance office first, to reach out to them to give them a heads up as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And there are certain restrictions on what you can use as your match. So the match for this category must be 100% cash, no in-kind expenses. Depending on if we're using federal funding, there is a restriction with that as well. So another SCAC grant cannot be used to match these funds. Grant criteria. Oh, so now we're looking at the rubrics that our reviewers use to evaluate your applications and to score your applications. Because the 4K and the K through 12 path are different enough, two different. We have two different rubrics for it. So yeah, that is a way, and we recommend you use the rubric as you're writing the application side by side, as you're writing these answers and seeing if your answers are strong enough, to make sure you're submitting the best possible application, to make sure you have the best score and the best chance of getting funded. And you're able to print it, and save it. We offer both options as well. Um, Okay,
Yeah.
Chris, I'll hand it off to you for this part.
All right. So once you review the guidelines again, you sit down, you know what you're going to apply for to actually apply. So if you've applied with us before, for another school arts support grant in the past, you likely already have an account within our grants portal. If you do not, you will need to uh, create an account for your school. And it needs to be for your school and not as you as an individual teacher. If you are working with or for different schools, please let us know. We do have the ability now to assign you to multiple organizations within our grants portal, but we just need to know that ahead of time. If you're unsure if your school has an account within our grants portal already, please let us know and we can check for you. If they already do, we need to be the ones to add you into their account. We don't want this helps us prevent any duplicate information within our grants portal and to avoid any overwritten information. Um, but if it turns out your school is brand new to this process, you're good to go to hit the supply button. This will take you to the login page for our grants portal. I'm not going to hit it right now because it'll log me out of the page that I have in for later in this session. Um, but you can start to create your portal account. If you have any questions about that registration process of information you might need, feel free to reach out to the grants team. We oversee the technical aspects of the grants process, especially when it comes to our portal. In regards to support materials, all school art support grants, including 4K, who previously did not need to include a letter of support from your principal or center director, acknowledging that the need for the grant, the support for the grant, and acknowledging that this is a reimbursement-based grant. So this helps keep your admin in the loop about what is going on, that they know that this is coming, this is not a surprise, and you got the sign off for this application. And then, yeah, within the grants portal, there will be an apply page in there, and it is pretty straightforward. So after you review, or after you apply, you submit it, the grants team will review it for completion. That means we're going to make sure your dates are within our grant period. As Michaela stated before, anytime from 5 weeks from your application submission date to May 15th, that all your uploaded items, whether it's your letter of support, your budget, any budget support materials that we request are visible, and that your budget is complete and is calculating correctly. If for the reason we need further clarification on something, there may be a typo on one of your dates, we'll reach out to you requesting that follow-up information before we move it to panel. After that, if we everything checks out, it's good to move forward. It will move to panel. We give our panelists a few weeks, or reviewers a few weeks to review. That is why we asked 5 weeks for 5 weeks between your submission date and your start date. That gives us time to review and everything, make sure. And then after that, you will receive an email from us regarding your notification, whether it is approved or denied, either way. So after, if you receive a grant award, which we hope you do, you will receive an email from us saying your award amount, as well as the next steps. And that will contain information on how to complete your contract packet, where to find certain documents within the grants portal, and what the payment process will be like. You will also need to submit signatures from your principal and your district superintendent, or another authorized official from your superintendent. That could also from your school district. That could also be the chief financial officer or somebody else, usually within the finance department of your school district, just so they know that your school is aware that this grant is coming through, and your district is aware that this grant is coming through. And as stated before, since this is a reimbursement-based grant, payment will only be released after we receive your final report, and that when you have completed the project. So your school district will be paying for it up front, and then we will be reimbursing them for your project. After you submit that contract packet, you will receive your final report, which will have a due date of 30 days after your grant project end date, or at the very latest May 31st of 2026. And we will review it. We will make sure everything is in alignment with what you submitted in your application. If you have any changes to your project throughout the grant period or prior to submitting your final report, please reach out to the grants team and to Michaela about those changes, so we can make sure they are in alignment with our grant guidelines and with the project that you originally set out to do. And after that, we will release the payment. We do have here within, and we will let you review this within your own time. our delinquent grantee communication policy. And this is for whatever reason, we do not hear back from you, especially in regards to final reports, our next steps, making sure that, hey, there's nothing serious going on. We understand that life happens. There is a medical event, something's going on in your school district, but we want to make sure, hey, were you able to complete your project? What's going on? And everything like that, because we don't want to cancel your grant if we don't have to. But please review it when you have time, but that's just our policy. And we'll reiterate this again, but if you ever need help in regards to advisement, please reach out to Michaela. But if you have any other technical questions regarding our portal, please feel free to reach out to Trinity or I at the grants team email at grants@arts.sc.gov. And I'll pause here. Does anybody have questions so far? Okay, if not, I'm going to go into our grants portal and show you a quick preview of what the 4K and K through 12 application looks like for the School Art Support Grant for each of those sections. It'll look a little bit different for you when you apply, but this was just a general overview of it, and for the most part will look the same. So this is our grants portal. Again, since I'm an administrator in this, your settings will look different, but generally when you start it, you'll see some basic sections here, such as project type, application contract, principals, letter support, et cetera, et cetera. And these will be relevant items for both the 4K and K through 12 projects. And we want to reiterate this year, since we have combined these two applications this year, the branching logic, once you choose certain things within the application, is very finicky sometimes. So once you start editing sections included in the branching logic, those sections might remain, even if you select a different project type. For example, I originally selected K through 12 projects, and I start clicking things in here. And then I realize, oh, hey, I'm actually applying on behalf of my preschool, not an elementary school. So even if I go back up here and start clicking on K through 12, some of the stuff for the K through 4K, sorry, K through 12 items might stick around. So please be careful when you're clicking around and editing. You may have to restart your application if that is the case. But please let us know. But I'm going to refresh here so it starts over. Okay. And I'm going to go through K through 12. So again, there will be general sections asking about what type of school you're in, how to check your low income school status if you're applying for K through 12. So there will be a link to this handy dandy list that will show if your school is eligible for that no match grant for K through 12. Center letter and funding purpose. So for example, I'm going to choose purchase materials, equipment, or supplies. So that part of the application will now show. If I chose professional development, it would say narrative professional development. Before I go into the budget, Michaela, anything to add to this section?
Yeah, I would like to reiterate that for the evaluation part, the ideas the ideas that we suggest, you don't have to do them. It's not limited to those ideas. We were just giving you a starting point, so whatever works best for you. I would also recommend that these sections are in the rubric, so you can also see exactly where which answers are weighted more than others, or what they're weighted for. And the main difference is just how well you tell the story of what you're trying to accomplish. So we would just recommend like you being detailed um and not just saying what you want to do, but like using it to tell your story and not assuming that the reviewers that are also teachers know exactly what your school is doing and what your vision is. So yeah, we just encourage you to um expound and then proofread your answers, but that's the main weightier difference of what we're looking for in the rubric between these answers.
Right. Um, I'm just going to stick to the K through 12 budget for now. We can always look at the 4K budget if anybody would like to. Um, at the end when we have for QA. But since the majority of our applications are for K through 12, I'm just going to stick to this. And the 4K budget spreadsheet is very similar. Some of the instructions here are a little bit different, but for the most part, you're going to be using the same budget spreadsheet, etc. So it is required that you use our budget spreadsheet. There's a link here for you to download it. We'll click here. My computer wants to be any faster today. Um, You'll open up this fun little Excel form. Um, and we can only take Excel forms. So if you are using Numbers or a MacBook, or using this in a Google form or OneDrive somewhere where it's sharing, you will need to download it again as an Excel form, XLS doc or an XLSX doc, and save it as that. And you'll click on the second tab here, budget, and this is what you'll fill out. So you'll type Wando River, if I can spell today, elementary, your school name. You'll choose the match. So my school doesn't, I'm not eligible for a no match. It'll be just 1 to 2 and the maximum request. So for both 4K and for K through 12, it will be 2,500. And you want to make sure this is the correct information that you're typing in here because that will impact how the rest of the budget spreadsheet calculates. So my project is going to be materials and art supplies that I'm having for my music class. So you can type put it in whichever category you feel best fits your project. If I was hiring an artist in residence, I might put that in professional fees. If I was going to a conference, I might put that in travel. But for materials, a lot of applicants either use office expenses or other, but so long as you have descriptions there, you're putting in specifically what you're planning to purchase for this project. That is what we need to see. So I'm going to put music sheets from music.com and I'm going to put the amount that I'm that is going to cost. We want you to be as specific as possible in the budget. So when you upload your budget support material, which I will touch on in a second, we can accurately compare it and make sure everything is matching up. And then drums from music store doc. I'm being very true. And that's going to be 750. So I'm going to total this all up, 500, 750. That is $150. So since I'm a 1 to match school, it is automatically going to calculate. So based on my total number of expenses, I'm eligible to receive $833 for in the total grant award. So that means, and it'll show that on bottom, my school will need to provide the remaining match for that. So 417. And so that might come from a either private funding, admissions. Hey, we had a school play, we generated money that way. But generally, that will probably come from your school district or your individual school. So I'm going to say uh, Charleston County School District and 417. And so then when I go back down, there's a little green check mark and a 0. So that's what we want to see when we see a balance or a surplus here at the very bottom. If there's a deficit, that means there's something in your income that's off. Occasionally, there will be a 0 with an X. Sometimes the rounding logic that for the calculations is a little off. So as long as there's a 0 there, you're fine. We're if you're going to the penny, it's okay. But if you have any questions about the budget spreadsheet, we understand it can be a little confusing sometimes. Please let us know. And we can definitely check it and make sure it all looks good. But I'm gonna close out of that. After I've completed it, you want to make sure, yep, I'm entering the correct match, correct maximum request. I had detailed descriptions for the expenses and income, and I'm going to upload it. And I'm going to reinstate here, hey, everything's correct, and that you understand this is a reimbursement grant. And then for support documentations, we ask you to provide the actual quotes from vendors, screenshots of shopping carts, an email conversation about planned expenses, so we can compare your budget with these support documents that we make sure you have an accurate idea of what things are going to cost. And how that compares. We understand that some things might just be estimates, especially for hotel costs if you're doing professional development, but as long as you can give us the best estimate with sufficient evidence, that will suffice. We ask you, please do not just have it in like a table in an Excel document or a Word document with pictures or a link to the shopping carts. We want actual screenshots or download PDFs of those shopping carts. That makes it a lot easier for us to verify and save us time. But there are plenty of spaces for you to upload those 10 spaces. And then after you've done that, you'll certify that you are eligible to receive these funds and that you are going to be compliant with our Arts Commission rules, state and federal laws, etc. You'll certify those information and then you will submit it. Just gonna double check my list. But yeah, that's kind of the general overview of the portal, the application, and the guidelines. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and we can open it up for questions if anybody has any.
Hey, thank you for putting on this presentation. It's been great. I just had a quick question for you. I was taking a peek at when you're on the expense sheet. I noticed you put in the 2,500, the phone number. Do you suggest putting the phone number in if we're not going to get near it, or?
Yes. So putting that full number, even if you don't get near it, just helps us calculate it correctly. And for whatever reason, your project is going to go over that number for that eligible request, your project's cost $3,000. We want that also impacts it, so it kind of helps that cap and caps it off at the right place. But again, we double check it when you submit it. So if we see it's like, hey, you entered 2,000 instead of 2,500, we'll double check that and let you know and correct it on our end.
Awesome. And when you talked about estimates for things that we're not exactly sure what the price is going to be, what kind of estimates do we kind of just get a ballpark range with the possibility going up as long as we stay under the 2,500 limit?
If things change for example, like hotel costs or travel costs or flights are kind of the biggest things that we understand can change from initial estimate when you take the screenshot of like the Expedia website to when you actually purchase the tickets. We cannot pay you over your awarded grant amount.
Okay.
So if it does change where things go up, we cannot cover that with our funding. You would have to reach out to your district. But if for a reason you were able to get a discount on art supplies and you wanted to purchase something else with that grant funding, you had like an extra $200, we would ask you to reach out to us saying that. And if you had another thing you wanted to purchase that was in alignment with your project, and had an idea of like how much it would cost, certainly do that and we would approve it and let you know.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Also, oh, sorry.
Oh, go for it.
Before you, before you know you for sure like want to start an application and just want to read through the questions, there is a way to preview the application without starting and creating an account in the grants portal. So in that way, you can download all the questions and have a question list and the rubric side by side before you actually start pressing things in the grant portal. So you can do it that way as well.
Yeah, let me share my screen really quickly. So it will look different for you, but once you create an account and you start an application, there will, and I think on the card of like the apply here page on the grants portal, there will be a button similar to this. It will be in a different spot, but it will say question list, where you will be able to download all the questions for the application. I will preface that because this is linked to the entire application, all of the questions for both 4K and K through 12 are here. So just be mindful that some of these may not apply to your project or for your discipline or what you're applying under. But if for whatever reason you wanted to forward it to somebody you're collaborating with or wanted a space to write it out separately, this is a page for you to do so. So you can see 37 pages. You will not be filling that much out for your application. But just because of how our system works, it's all here.
Anything else y'all have questions about, or is there a part you want us to talk about again or you want to see again before the coaching call ends? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and and it's also at the bottom of the guidelines page, but if anything, that's my email. You can reach out if you need anything to brainstorm ideas, if you need someone to read over the application or to ask any questions. We recommend like you use the program staff to help you all up until you actually apply and submit it, and then after that it would be mostly the grants team you are talking to. But yeah, we were able to help all along the way. Since we're not evaluating the applications, we can read over it, give you suggestions, all of that. So but thank you, Krista, thank you, Trinity, for also your help, and thank you for joining us.